Newcastle United 1, Arsenal 0. The Gunners fall to their first loss of the season in a game that was a delightful watch for Newcastle fans around the world, a frustrating loss for Arsenal fans, but a delightful watch as well for all the neutrals. The game had everything. It had passion, it had challenges, and it had potential red cards that went abated. Now, my name is Izzy. If you're new to the channel, you know what to do. If you enjoy this content, I would appreciate if you hit that like and that subscribe button to let YouTube and everybody else know that you are enjoying this content. Now, I'm going to try and put some of my subjectivity aside, although it might rear its head, because this is a game that I'm very frustrated by. But the number one thing that I'm frustrated from this game by was VAR and its use of or lack thereof. This game had a few calls, some very serious calls that could have changed the complexion of this game. Now, Newcastle did play very well, but so did Arsenal. And this was one of those games that you knew was going to be on a knife edge. It was not going to be a game that was cut and dry. The first half was very good, had a nice back and forth. Arsenal gave and took some from Newcastle. There weren't a lot of clear-cut chances in this game, and you already knew that from the fact that Newcastle were defending very deep, and so did Arsenal, that this was going to be one of those games where the first goal is the winner takes it all. And so it came to pass. In the 64th minute, Anthony Gordon latched on to a header from Joe Linton that had a lot of controversy around it, and slotted the ball in the back of the net. Now, there was a three-tier reason why this goal could have stood and could not have stood. The first was, did the ball go over the line when it was retrieved from the left-hand side? The pictures were very inconclusive. So this one, I cannot really blame VAR because they would probably need a direct headshot to be able to assure whether the ball went out or whether it stayed in. Fine, I will give VAR that. Then came the cross. Joe Linton looked as though he had shoved Gabriel in the back. Now, again, there's some subjectivity that might play into this. I, for a fact, think that it should have been chalked off because of that. Some people look at it and probably say, well, you know, he was trying to jump over and his momentum probably took him forward. And while Joe Linton did have both hands on the back of Gabriel, it was a 50-50 chance. All right, I will give you that. Now, the third tier was whether it was offside. Now, this, I probably do give it to VAR. It was inconclusive. You couldn't see from the shots whether Anthony Gordon was behind the ball when it touched Joe Linton first or whether he was ahead. There's a lot of confusion that goes into that. So my real issue would probably be the first two, whether the ball did go out. The pictures on the first one were inconclusive, but I do think that there was a shove on Gabriel's back, and this was going to be a very major issue in the rest of the game because the goal was given. Now, Arsenal did not create too many chances in this game, but neither did Newcastle. Newcastle probably had a few more openings than Arsenal. And you would probably think that on the balance of that, fine. This was going to be a very tough game, and Newcastle came out on top. But it was a very, very physical game. And I sat back watching this thinking, are Arsenal really going to make it through this game? Because whenever they go to Newcastle, or when they went to Everton, or when they go to teams such as your Burnley, they realize that Arsenal is a team that if you push them hard enough physically, they are going to buckle. This is one of those things that I will say in this game I was very proud of Arsenal for. They did not buckle. They gave it just as much as Newcastle dished it out. And you could see that when Kai Havertz went in for a full-blooded tackle. I can't remember who the player was, but it was Sean Longstaff. When he went in for that tackle against Sean Longstaff, it was a very, very full-blooded tackle. He knew he wanted to get the ball. He knew he was going to rile the Newcastle fans up, and he knew he was going to increase the temperature in the stadium. It was a beautiful watch. But at the same time, you look at other situations where Bruno Guimaraes had three very strong chances to have him off the field. The first one was the brush, actually not the brush. The first one was the elbow on Jorginho's head. Now that, I have no idea what VAR is doing. They should be able to look at that and realize that that is serious foul play. These are the problems that a lot of people have with VAR. I am a very staunch supporter of VAR. I think that it is needed in this game. I think that this is something that should have some very strong professionals behind it, and quite possibly a former player, one who doesn't have any allegiance to any of the teams in the Premier League, who is able to adjudicate some of these situations. It baffles me how Bruno Guimaraes was able to escape with that. He clearly went in for an elbow. You can see the creases on Jorginho's head. You can see his cheek flatter. You can see the creases on Bruno's hand as he went in for that elbow. There is no reason why he shouldn't be sent off for that. Either way, he got away with that. Now, Bruno was very riled up for most of the game. And eventually you saw him brush Jorginho off with a body check. And later on, you could see him, I think, shove Fabio Vieira in the face. There were a lot of chances to give this guy a yellow card, and he only got one towards the end for the Vieira challenge, of which he seemed as though he was confused and bewildered while he was doing that pretty much most of the game. But it is understandable that a lot of teams have known Arsenal to be a soft touch in the past. And in this game, Newcastle were going to try and bring that out of Arsenal. They just didn't know that Arsenal were going to go toe-to-toe against them physically. Now, as far as what else transpired in the game, I think that Callum Wilson had a pretty decent match. He also was getting into a couple of niggly challenges with Saliba and with Gabriel, and it was a very entertaining game from a neutral standpoint. But as far as VAR is concerned, there are too many incidences that go unpunished or go punished crazily to let this keep on going on. Now, I have not seen any of the post-match commentary from Mikel Arteta or from Eddie Howe, but I do trust the fact that Eddie Howe is a very level-headed manager and a level-headed bloke, and I'm pretty sure he can look at this game and say, you know what, we kind of got away with one. Bruno was very lucky to stay on the pitch, and the goal that was given had a lot of confusion around it. There are some points when the game is actually advancing. I can't blame the referee that's on the pitch for letting the goal stand. I don't blame him for that, because he, from his vantage point, is not able to see whether the ball goes out. It's very difficult to see the shove from Joelinton, no matter how slight or heavy it is, because the pace of the play is very fast. And the offside, of course, he can't tell, because probably he is definitely way behind the ball, and so he can't see whether Gordon was level when Joelinton headed the ball down for him. But my problem is when you have somebody seated in the studio with the advantage of so many replays, and he is not able to see whether somebody elbows somebody in the face, no matter how many times. A lot of these officials are afraid to make very strong decisions moving forward. We saw that in the Wolves game against Manchester United when a very clear penalty was denied, and the reasoning behind it sometimes baffles us. And I'm pretty sure Howard Webb is going to come up with his series with Michael Owen explaining that, oh, well, maybe this should not have been given, or maybe this should have been given. But at the end of the day, you can't give those points back to Arsenal. Now, on the balance of play, my honest, objective opinion is that this game probably should have been a draw. Newcastle were just as good as Arsenal. I don't think Arsenal were better than Newcastle. Newcastle created slightly more opportunities than Arsenal, but I do think that on the balance of play, this was a knife-edge game. And of course, yes, the person who was going to score the goal was going to win it for his team. It just happened to be Anthony Gordon. But where does this leave Arsenal as far as the title goes? Manchester City have now gone ahead, 3 points ahead, and you know that whenever you are going into a title race with Pep Guardiola, it doesn't matter whether it's in Germany, it doesn't matter whether it was in Spain. If he goes ahead of you and he's already lost 2 games, you have to start fearing for it, because Mikel Arteta and Arsenal also have this tendency of going on a run of losing games. This is something that we've seen all the way since he became manager. Arsenal, when they have a slump, they have a slump. So hoping for the rest of the league that Arsenal are going to be able to keep challenging and that they will get out of this funk. They've now lost 2 games in a row. They're going to have a Champions League game that's going to be tough, and they need to qualify from that. Some of their fixtures moving forward are going to be forgivable enough, so I don't think it should hurt them too much. But one thing that is important for Arsenal to do is pick themselves off the ground, because Liverpool are there. Manchester City are not going to relent, and at the moment Tottenham are looking good. So this is not going to be a very good result for Arsenal at the end. It was always going to be tough going to St. James's Park. I am proud of the performance that my boys put out today, and in the name of objectivity, Newcastle did play well, and this should stand them well for, their challenge as they try to make it into the top 4. But it's a game that is just littered with too many issues, and the VAR thing needs to be sorted out. And we can't keep having these officials who just don't know how to adjudicate these games well. I don't blame the referee that was on the pitch. He tried his best in such a physical game, a game that literally could have had red cards on red cards on red cards. So that I don't think he handled too badly. My issue is with the people at Stokely Park. They are not in the stadium. They don't know the temperature that is in the stadium as far as all the challenges that are going in, as far as, who's on who, and they probably can't monitor things the same way a referee that's on the pitch can. So some of these things need to be worked out. That pay grade is higher than I have, and I am not Howard Webb, but he needs to sort out his people very quickly, because the dissatisfaction with VAR is now starting to reach a fever point. And if it keeps on going, we don't know how many teams are going to lose out on points that they really should have gotten. But that's all I got for right now, guys. Arsenal lose. I was dreading this day. I knew that eventually it was going to come. I had the feeling that it was going to come against Newcastle, but you don't want to see your boys go down in the same manner as they did today. Proud of their performance. Very good performance from Newcastle on the other hand, but VAR, as usual, just know how to muck things up. They always find a way to ruin a great spectacle by either not deciding on something or deciding terribly on something. It's been your boy, Izzy. Let me know about your thoughts down there in the comments, and I will catch you as I talk about some of the other games that took place today. Peace.